So we're going to be talking about, obviously, the big story of the week. Pretty massive in the world of the Premier League. It's Pochettino out, Mourinho in at Tottenham ahead of a big game for Tottenham, a London derby at West Ham on Saturday. To get the Spurs perspective, as we have been the last few days, I'm delighted to say we're joined by Chris Cowlin from Last Word on Spurs. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, Chris. So the dust has settled a little bit. Jose has his first press conference in just under an hour's time. Now that you can kind of you've had a few days to think about it. What is your feeling at the moment in terms of the feeling towards Pochettino, who's now left the club, and Jose Mourinho? Would he have been the man at the top of your shortlist to replace Pochettino?
I've got to admit, when the news came out about Pochettino, I was absolutely gutted. I didn't expect it to be so soon. I thought that Pochettino, from what he's done at the club, his first season in charge, he got us into Europa League football. The last 4 seasons, he's got us to Champions League football. Had very little investment, done wonderful things at the club, laid some fantastic foundations and took us to places where we didn't think that we could go. Champions League final, not spending any money in 500 days, just simply incredible. Proves what a fantastic manager he is. The results this year, 2019, haven't been what we're used to under Pochettino and not what we expect. 3 wins from the first 12 Premier League games this season. So I think that something had to give, and his attitude wasn't quite right in the last couple of months, ever since the summer, actually. I think it all started when he said in the Audi Cup that he wasn't the manager, he was the coach. There were lots of things going on in the club, and it just seemed that the players weren't playing for him. Very, very sorry to see him go. But if you were to ask me who would take over at Tottenham, Jose Mourinho would have been at the top of my list. He's a born winner. Trophies just ooze out of him. And I'm after a couple of days of having it now, I feel very excited that Jose Mourinho is our manager, and we need a trophy. We haven't won a league title since 1961. We haven't won a European trophy since 1984. We haven't won an FA Cup since 91, and the last trophy we won was in the League Cup in 2008. So it is way overdue. Tottenham Hotspur Football Club need trophies, and I do believe that Jose Mourinho is the man to deliver them.
Do you think, Chris, that the players let Pochettino down? Because if you're believing some reports, there's some suggestions that, not a guarantee, but that some of those contract rebels, Toby Alderweireld, Jan Vertonghen and Christian Eriksen, might be more inclined now to sign new contracts. Does that make you feel rather disappointed in these players, that they've let down a manager that quite clearly a lot of Tottenham fans really respected and really liked, and yet now that the manager's changed, their feelings have completely switched around, and suddenly they're feeling committed to Tottenham?
I feel disappointed by a number of Tottenham Hotspur players. For someone like myself who goes home and away and goes to every single game, there were so many low points during this season. To lose 7-2 at home, worst European feat in the club's history, to Bayern Munich a couple of months back, and you had games at Brighton away losing 3-0, where you just saw that certain players just didn't want to know, didn't want to turn up at all, didn't want to know whatsoever. There were so many low points. The Newcastle 1-0 home defeat this season. So many low points, and I do think that some players really do need to look at themselves and think that perhaps they were responsible of getting Mauricio Pochettino the sack. But it'll be interesting now to see what Jose Mourinho does. Certain players do want away. Will they sign new contracts? Well, that's up to Jose Mourinho now. Perhaps he'll want them there, perhaps he won't. It'll be an interesting next couple of months.
I suppose, Chris, now the attention turns to how Jose Mourinho will play and what his tactical approach will be at Tottenham. How do you see things changing? Because obviously Pochettino and Mourinho are very different style of managers, so there is going to be a change. What formation do you think Jose will try and change things quite quickly, or do you think he will take a little bit of time, in particular towards the January transfer window, and then when maybe he can bring a few players in, push a few players potentially out of the door, that's when you might see kind of a real change into what Jose really wants to implement?
I think it will be a gradual thing. I think that Mauricio Pochettino, as I said earlier, I think he's laid some fantastic foundations. I don't see a lot changing instantly. I don't even see that much changing in January. Perhaps a couple of players in and a couple of players out. But I think that he will really want to stamp his authority and stamp his mark on Tottenham Hotspur Football Club in the summer. And we'll see a drastic change of clientele, a lot of players coming in and out. And he's got this period now, after 12, 13 games in the Premier League, he's got this period now of experimenting and seeing who he wants to keep and who he doesn't for next season. But ultimately, the club's goal is to finish, playing Champions League football next season. So it's very, very important that we get that 4th place or higher. And right now, we're sitting in 14th place. We're going into the West Ham game on Saturday, sitting in 14th place. We've won 3 out of 12 Premier League games. So, and we haven't won away in the Premier League for 10 months. So, what a great time for him to come in, and wouldn't it be a great start for him if we started with win, having not won for 10 months away.
We'll talk about the game in just a few moments' time. We've mentioned the January transfer window there, Chris, and you suggest maybe there'll be a little bit of movement, but not a huge amount, as is usual, customary in the January transfer window. I'm assuming that defensively is the area that you're looking at. What would you be looking to do if you were Jose Mourinho? If you could make a couple of signings, what would they be? And you mentioned a couple of players might leave. What type of players or who would you be looking to potentially move out of Tottenham?
Well, I think Christian Eriksen is the obvious one. He's wanted away for some time now, and even with the appointment of Jose Mourinho, I think that he will still want away. He's had this ambition of finding another club and having that fresh challenge. So I think he will want away. We've missed a good right back this season since Kieran Trippier left. That is not obvious one. I'm surprised that we did start the Premier League season without signing a right back, having let Kieran Trippier go. But we do need to strengthen the squad defensively. Defensively, the team has been really let down this season, and we've conceded a lot of goals and lost a lot of matches and lost a lot of points. So defensively, we do really need to strengthen. And I would really love to see a decent backup striker coming in as well, to relieve Harry Kane sometimes and play those cup matches as well.
One of the interesting questions, inevitably, when there's a new manager that comes in, is how some players who were flavour of the month start to kind of fall out of favour with the next manager, and some players that weren't in favour do suddenly become really important players for them. One of the players that's been mentioned quite a lot as to who's been on the fringes of this Tottenham team is Eric Dyer, and a lot of people are suggesting that he is the type of player who could force his way back into the team under Jose. He was supposedly interesting Manchester United when Mourinho was there. Do you think it's pretty likely that Eric Dyer will come into the team maybe on Saturday? And would you be happy to see Eric Dyer come back into the fold on a regular basis for Tottenham?
Everybody, every single player, including Eric Dyer, has got to give 100%. Everyone's starting afresh. Everyone's starting from scratch. Jose Mourinho's going in there with fresh eyes, and the players need to impress him to play any game, let alone a Premier League game. So it is now time for everyone to impress, and that's what I'm saying, that Jose Mourinho will see who he wants to keep, who's given the right attitude, and that's what it's about, giving the right attitude. And if I was a player for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club right now, and then Jose Mourinho walked in, everyone that place should be buzzing right now. And he is a serial winner, and some of these players now will think, "Wow, what he's won. We are about to do the same." And let's hope that is the case.
So, looking ahead to Saturday, a pretty significant game for Jose Mourinho's first game in charge of Tottenham. It's away at West Ham. These derby games are always feisty. With a new manager, does that completely change your kind of view going into this game? Were you perhaps a bit worried about this type of game if Pochettino had still been in charge, and now there's been a change? Mourinho's going to be in charge for a couple of days in training before the game. Are you now thinking with a kind of huge amount more of confidence going into this game?
It's funny you should ask that, because I wasn't feeling that confident when Pochettino was manager. Even though I love Pochettino as a manager, the form during this year just hasn't been that great. The player performances have been dreadful. Some of the games that I've mentioned, Brighton away, for instance. But going into this game, every single player is going to want to impress Jose Mourinho. Everyone is going to be playing for him. Everyone's going to be playing to get in that starting lineup. And I'm hugely excited. I think that it will give the fans a huge lift. I think it will give everyone in the football club a huge lift. And as I said, Jose Mourinho is a serial winner. He demands respect and he demands to win football matches. And I'm super excited now for Saturday. And I'm going into this game fully confident that we're going to get 3 points.
So